Hello friends, this video on Morphology of Flowering Plants Part 8 is brought to you by examfear.com. No more fear from exam. So with this we end our discussion on roots. Now we will talk about the next very important part of a plant, that is stem. Now the first question, what is stem? Needless to say, it is that part of the plant which grows above the ground, and stem is that part which actually bears so many other parts of the plant like leaves, flowers, fruits. So everything is born on stem. So it is the erect aerial part of a flowering plant. Positively phototrophic. So what do we mean by positively phototrophic? Positively means towards. Photo is light. So that means it grows towards light. It grows upwards. That is why it is positively phototrophic. But if I talk about root, is it positively phototrophic? No. It is generally negatively phototrophic. That is, it always tends to grow away from light. That is why it grows downwards. However, stem is negatively geotrophic. Geotrophic is, geo means earth. So something which grows towards the center of the earth. That is known as geotrophic. Now here the stem grows upwards, so it is negatively geotrophic. But if I talk about a root, it grows towards the soil. So roots are positively geotrophic. They can be underground as well. Again, this is a very important point to note. Like how we spoke about roots, that even though most of the roots are underground, but there are roots which can be aerial as well. So similarly, in case of stem also, it is not necessary that every time stem has to be aerial. There are some stems in some plants where they can be underground as well. So underground stems also exist. Now this stem and its branches, along with the flowers, fruits, everything, they together constitute the shoot system of the plant. Right? Now talking about stem, when a stem is young, it is generally green in color. But later, when the plant actually grows into a big tree, the stem also turns woody, from green to woody. Now many people get confused with shoot and stem. Like, how is shoot different than stem? Many people use these two terms synonymously. They feel that stem and shoot mean the same thing, but it is not like that. When I talk about the shoot, I am basically talking about the shoot system, which is comprised of the stem plus its branches, plus the leaves, the flowers, the fruits, the buds. So everything all together constitute the shoot system. So the plant body is broadly divided into two parts, shoot system and root system. But if I talk about stem, I am only talking about one portion of the shoot system. So stem is only this vertical erect structure which is growing upwards and which bears all other parts of the plant like flowers, fruits, leaves, etc. So that is the stem. So talking about shoot, it is nothing but a new plant growth. So suppose if you have a seed, so if you germinate the seed, so a small plant will grow, right? So that new plant growth that happens, that will consist of the shoot and the root. It includes stem, flowers, leaves. Whereas if I talk about stem, it is the aerial axis of a grown plant. So when a plant is already grown, the aerial axis which is growing upward, that is known as the stem. It bears leaves and flowers. So that's exactly what I had explained just now. So this is how shoot and stem are different from each other, and therefore they should not be used synonymously. So when you are talking about a new growth of a plant, you can refer it as a shoot, but when a plant is already grown, shoot would always mean that you are talking about the stem, plus you are talking about the flowers, leaves, everything. But when I say stem, I am only talking about this axis. So basically in this picture, this axis, if I talk about this axis, I am talking about the stem. But if I talk about this entire package, including the stem, the leaves, the flowers, then I am talking about the shoot system. Okay. Now let us talk about the parts of stem. So how can we actually study the structure of a stem. So it is very important to know the different structures or the different parts of a stem. A stem is normally divided into nodes and internodes. So this is very, very important. So this structure, this aerial axis which you see, it is divided into nodes and internodes. What are nodes? Nodes are the region of the stem where buds arise. So here you can see in this picture, there are certain points from where buds can arise. I mean, you can have buds, you can have leaves, you can have branches. So there are certain points. So those points are known as nodes. Whereas the region between two consecutive nodes is known as the internode. So this portion between any two nodes is the internode. So this is node, again this is node, again this is node, but this portion is internode. Again this portion is internode. Right? So those points on the stem from where buds or buds or branches or leaves can arise, they are known as nodes, and region between any two successive nodes is known as the internode. So in a stem you will always have one node, then internode, again one node, then internode, again one node, then internode, and so on. Now what are the functions of stem, which is very, very important to know? It supports different parts of the plant like leaves, flowers and fruits. Because if you don't have, the stem is the one which actually supports all these. So here in this picture you can actually see these flowers. I mean, who will hold these flowers if the stems are not there? Similarly, the fruits as well as the leaves. Conduction of water and nutrients between root and shoot. So as I said, nutrients and water, they are all present inside the soil. So who will bring them out from the soil? Root. So even inside root, which particular part of the root will do that? Right, the root hairs. So root will actually take the nutrients and water from the soil. But now that has to reach the different parts of the plant. When I say different parts of the plant, I mean the fruits, the flowers, everything should get those water and nutrients. So how will they get conducted? So in that conduction, stem plays a very important role. Stem helps in conducting water and nutrients from root to different parts of the plant. We will now talk about the modifications of stem. Now besides these basic functions, that is conduction of water and minerals, stem also performs some other special functions. And to perform those special functions, stems are modified in many different ways in different plants. So stems are modified in various ways in various plants to perform different functions. So what are those different functions? Mechanical support, food storage, photosynthesis, defense. These are some of the functions which stems perform, and for these they get modified into different forms and structures. So we will talk about each of these modifications of stem in detail now. So let us start with the different modifications of stem. Now in order to understand these modified functions, we need to understand the various forms of stem. So they are not basically types of stem, but the various forms of stem, that is the various ways stems are modified. We can have aerial stems, that is the stems which grow above the ground. Now in this aerial stems also we have sub-classification like strong stems, weak stems. In weak stems again we have classification like trailer, creeper. Again, creeper can be further sub-classified as runner, sucker, stolon and offset. Now I am very sure that you might be getting very confused that we have so many sub-classification, again sub-sub-classification, even sub-sub-sub-classification. Now how are we going to study is when we will first talk about the aerial stems in detail. In that we'll have two types, strong and weak. In weak we'll again have trailer and creeper. In creeper we again have all these four. So basically we are going to discuss each of these in detail. We also have another type called climber. So this is all about the aerial stems. Next we have some underground stems as well, and that is why I told you that it is not always necessary that stems have to be above the ground. There are stems which are underground. Examples are rhizome, tuber, bulb and corm. Now, other than aerial and underground stems, there are some special stems, stems which are specialized to perform some very special functions, like the stem thorns, the phylloclads, and the cladodes. So, these are some special modifications of the stem. So, now our agenda is to talk about each of these stem modifications. So, we will start our discussion with the aerial stem. Now, before we go into that discussion, we will quickly talk about a small topic, that is axillary and terminal bud. Now, you might be wondering that from where this axillary and terminal bud came into picture. Now, these are the two terms which I will be using very often in the later half of the chapter. So, I want to make this clear right at this moment. Now, there are two types of bud which we will be talking about. One is axillary bud and the other one is terminal bud. So let us see what is each of them. When I say axillary bud and terminal bud, what do the names suggest? Axillary bud, the term axillary is derived from the word axil. So it is that bud which develops in the axil of a leaf. So if you look at this figure, this is the leaf. So this is the axil of leaf. So these are my axillary buds, so which grows at the base of the leaf. Axillary buds develop from nodes which later becomes a new stem. So here you can see these are the nodes of the stem, right? So the axillary buds generally develop at the nodes and these later will become a new stem or a new branch. This is also known as lateral bud. Whereas when I say terminal bud, what is terminal? Terminal generally denotes end of something, right? So this kind of buds develop at the apex or at the tip. So this is my terminal bud or apical bud because this is the apex. If you see, this is the main stem. So now once you have a bud here, it doesn't grow further. But lateral buds, at each node you have natural buds. But this is the apex of the stem. So that is why terminal bud is also known as apical bud because it is present at the apex of the stem. Now, whenever we use these terms, axillary buds and terminal buds, you should not get confused. And that is why it is a kind of prerequisite to understand this chapter. So that whenever I use these terms, you are clear with what they are. Thank you. Please visit www.examfear.com to watch more videos, attempt free online test, get free study material, find tutors and mentors. Thank you once again.